Hi, everybody. I'm KPRC2 Sports Director Randy McIlvoy. Welcome to Mic'd Up with McIlvoy. This is when we get a chance to sit down with those that have made an impact on the sports scene across the city of Houston over many, many years. Right now, we're inside of the Rockets' home here at Toyota Center. But for many years, they called the Summit home, just down 59. And it was there that the Rockets earned their first ever NBA championship, the first championship, in fact, for the city of Houston. 30 years ago, that's when it went down, the 1993-94 NBA season when the Rockets were the last team standing. I had a chance to sit down with two of the legends that played a major role with that Rockets run, longtime head coach Rudy Tomjanovich and Rockets player Matt Bullard. Here's some of the conversation. All right, inside of Toyota Center right now in a really cool area here, high above the Toyota Center floor. A great way to showcase the Rockets' great history, and I'm joined by a couple of the legends. You know them well. Rudy Tomjanovich, good to see you, Rudy.
Good to see you,
Matt
Randy.
Bullard, good to see you, Matt.
Thank you, sir.
Man, talking about a championship, it never gets old, and y'all played the games just down 59 at the Summit, but right behind us showcase all the great eras of Rockets basketball. Is it pretty cool to walk around and just kind of eyeball this again and brings back a lot of memories?
Well, it really does. It does bring back a lot of memories, and not only of our era, but these other great eras. And there have been so many great players coming through this organization, a lot of enjoyment. But the good news is we've got more coming in. I'm really excited about our new team.
Yeah, it's we've had 30 years to reflect on our accomplishments, and it was so hard going through it, right? I mean, it was like the hardest thing we've ever done, but now 30 years later to be able to reflect on the lessons that we learned and all the enjoyment that we've had in the years that, came afterwards, it's really something.
You look back, it's gotten a lot of attention. The 30 years does it feel like it's flown by?
Yeah.
I mean, it really has.
Yeah.
It really has. What surprises me is that kids that weren't even born when we were out there battling know about the team because of the reruns on the cable and the internet. And I'm shocked when I'll say, "Well, how old are you?" And says, "Oh no, I saw it on the classic station."
The classic station. Yeah. There you go.
And like video games too. Like I know the '94 Rockets on the video games get played a lot. Like the kids like going back and throwing it into Dream, and Robert Horry hitting the threes, and it does not seem like 30 years. I mean, it feels like it was just a few years ago.
That's true.
It's crazy how fast.
Is it fun to talk about? I mean, it's fun y'all probably constantly asked about that great year, and it was the first of back-to-back titles, but that first one was special. That first major championship that y'all were able to bring to Houston.
Because none of us had won the big one, coaches or players, and just believing that we could get it done. But then some of the matchups we had, I thought the Knicks was a real tough matchup for us because of the way the game was played back then. Very physical, a lot of pounding, hand checking. They did it to our point guards. Harper, fantastic defensive player, he did it. But then at center, they had 4 or 5 guys that could tag team and pressure Dream. And back then, good defense was considered you bump the guy at half court, you bump him at the three-point line, and then you wrestle him when he posts up. And, we went to him so much, we had to find a way to take that pressure off of him. And we had a strategy that we used. And the funny thing about the strategy was start the play on the other side, let them rotate, and while they're rotating, Akeem could rest, but we were going to always bring it back to him. And in fact, I got criticized by some of the coaches that I respected, but I couldn't tell them the reason we were doing it.
Right.
Right. And now, all these years after, I'll explain it. Give me a salt shaker.
People don't realize how physical those games really were. Like if you watch today's NBA, it's freedom of movement. Guys are running up and down the court. You can't bump somebody.
Totally different style now.
Totally different style.
Yeah.
And the pounding that Dream went through, but also Otis Thorpe, was a big part of our first championship because he was so strong. And Carl Herrera, another guy, Amigo came in, and he was playing with like a dislocated shoulder, and he's out there banging with Charles Oakley, and just to look back on the physical play and what we had to do to get to the championship, it's really something.
Yeah, Herrera is a good name because he really played good in that New York series, made some big plays.
When you look at that road to get there, it started with that first round, or was it Portland, I believe?
I think that's right.
Portland, and then
beat Drexler. Yep.
Yeah, then Phoenix, then Utah. I mean, that's a tough road just to get to the finals. When you reflect back, what in those early rounds to get there, what stands out? Which series?
Well, for me, when you talk about Phoenix, you're talking about Charles, you're talking about Marley and KJ, and all these great players. Then when you talk about Utah, we've got Malone and Stockton, and those guys are some of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Yeah.
And they were going for it hard, we were going for it hard, and 2 years in a row we beat those teams. So when I see those trophies, they mean a lot because I know what we went through.
Yeah, the lessons that we had to learn along the way, like falling down 2 games to Phoenix at home.
Because that was the first 2 games of the series.
Right,
Y'all dropped the first 2, right?
We had 20-point leads in both games, and we lose those games. And the lessons that we learned, that I had to learn, that all of us had to learn to get past that disappointment. And I felt like, Rudy, you did an amazing job of keeping us positive, pointed in the right direction. And Dream was a great leader at that point, too. Remember, Dream said, guys, we had 20-point leads on them.
Exactly.
We can beat them, And so to go to Phoenix and beat them after losing the first 2 games, and the lessons that you learned that, hey, we can do this. To get the confidence to be able to win. Looking back on those lessons, it's priceless.
Was that the message that you gave the guys?
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, when we win, it's Rockets. When game 1 came to, we lost those 2 games. And the headline was bigger than the article. It was Choke City.
Yeah.
And my fear was that was going to be the label on me the rest of my career. Mm-hmm. So I talked to the coaches about how to approach the situation. And I just like Matt mentioned, what Akeem said, just common sense. If you're good enough to get up by 20 points, you're good enough to beat them. Mm-hmm. So when we did our tape session, usually we had corrections and all the things we did bad. We didn't do any of that. We put on how we got the 20-point lead. And I had to almost act as a cheerleader. Guys didn't want to look at it. They thought it was going to be negative. And I said, now look up here, Max. That guy can't stay in front of you. And look at this Dream. They have to double you. You're too powerful for
positive reinforcement.
All positive.
Is that something that you learned earlier in your career about being positive, or is that something that just in the moment came up as a coach and you said that's the way we're going to do it?
Well, overall, I liked positive coaches. The one thing that I don't like is sarcasm. I don't like coaches who use sarcasm and sort of put their guy down. And I know how much our guys felt that, and they didn't need to be scolded or anything like that. But that's what happened there. I just said common sense. If you can get up, you can stay up.
Right.
Another thing that you talked about all the time was human nature. I can hear you saying human nature all the time, and it's when you get up by 20 points, it's human nature to let off the pedal and relax. And in the playoffs, you can't do that. You cannot let off the gas at all. You got to keep pushing, and that was a hard lesson for us to learn.
That's one of my sayings is we've got to overcome human nature, and both ways, feeling too good about yourself or feeling too bad about yourself.
Yeah. When you mentioned the headline that came out, that Choke City, that's obviously turned into Clutch City. Did the players respond to that too?
Yeah, that hurt.
How did that make you guys feel?
Yeah, it hurt bad. Like the whole city's like down on us now, And I felt like, we felt like the years leading up to the first championship, we weren't getting the respect around the league that we felt like we deserved.
Absolutely.
And so we already had a chip on our shoulder, like nobody believes in us. And now, we lose those 2 games and the city doesn't believe in us. So it was really like just us out there in Phoenix on our own.
Yeah, and we felt like we were by ourselves. But after winning 2 there, we come back and get surprised at Hobby Airport with the crowd of people. I got goosebumps just thinking about it, man.
That's awesome.
That was so amazing. Man, what a feeling. What a feeling to come back.
And that shows you how much the fans can really help, in a playoff series like that. We came back feeling good about ourselves. Hey, we got 2, but then to see thousands of fans out there appreciate what we did. Right, we got something going now.
What was funny about that whole situation in Houston's celebrations, when I coach, I'm in seclusion. I'm just down at the office and we're working on tapes, and when you pull a tape out, the regular TV goes on, and I saw this mob out in the street, and I mentioned, I said, God, there must be some uproar somewhere in the country. Where is that? They said, that's Richmond Avenue. I said, what? I said, that's our fans.
That's awesome, man.
That was so cool.
But when Rudy talks about tapes, he's talking about actual tapes. Like nowadays, there's no
yeah.
tapes. It's all digital.
Technology is a little bit different now.
That's right.
Stacks and stacks of tapes in Rudy's office.
So you guys rebounded there and got back in that series, won that series in 7. Is that kind of what, coming back from that deficit, the mental state, just the physical style of play in that round, and that carried into that Western Conference Finals against you?
Yeah, but then you got to face a phenomenal team that was like a machine. Mm-hmm. Utah, and we did something different. We didn't have the analytics at that time, but in my mind, if we played a defense where Stockton could shoot or Malone could shoot, we're in trouble. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not even if it's an outside shot by Malone, the guy was great at it. So we put in a defense where we brought a third guy in. We stayed on Malone. We didn't jump out, so he wasn't involved.
Yeah. So OT was just guarding Karl Malone. That's your only job.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Stockton was forced right into one spot, and we had a designated guy come in and stop him.
Yep.
So now the other 3 guys were going to be the guys who get the ball, and we were fine with that. But even on TV, the announcers couldn't figure out what the heck we were doing. Yeah, one
it worked.
One all-star
Nobody
player
ever brought the 3-man in from the weak side to pick up Stockton and then rotate out of that. It had never been done before.
Yeah, and a Hall of Fame announcer. Well, he wasn't a Hall of Fame announcer, but a Hall of Fame player who was doing color said, "They can't win letting Stockton come to the middle." And I said, "What's this guy? Is he watching the series?"
You were out there. What was it like, Matt, for you to be on the floor facing a couple of legends like Stockton and Malone?
Yeah, I mean, it's daunting, because it's like a machine. The way they executed, Jerry Sloan had their team executing their offense to perfection. No matter what you did to guard, they had a counter for it. And they had a lot of back picks, and they were very physical. And so it was like, man, these guys are really good. How are we going to do it? And then Rudy comes up with all these schemes that start working, and you start gaining confidence. And those are the types of things you look back on now. Like in the heat of the moment, we were just like, you're like full capacity with your brain. But looking back on it 30 years later, you can see, man, that was really innovative. It really worked. And not having the numbers to back it up at the time is really something.
Yeah, just a feeling. But we really had to work hard. Malone was such a good rebounder, a runner of the floor, and a post-up guy. People don't talk about his passing enough. If you hesitated when they did that split, it was a layup. Mm-hmm. And we would work really hard on guys not switching and finding a way to eliminate that.
From a fan's perspective, that Rockets-Jazz battle became a really intense rivalry, and Malone and Stockton, that was a great time in basketball.
From our perspective, the rivalry was even
I bet it
stronger than the
was. I bet
fans.
it
Like
was.
I think I still have hate in my heart for those guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No doubt some great memories there from Rudy T and Matt Bullard, but we're just getting started. We've talked about that early journey in the postseason. Well, up next, it's time for the NBA Finals in 1994 and a date with the New York Knicks. More of my conversation with Rudy T and Matt Bullard when we return. Downing Portland, Phoenix, and Utah, the Rockets now find themselves battling for an NBA title against the New York Knicks. And now, more from my conversation with Rudy Tomjanovich and Matt Bullard. All right, so you get through, and then the road to get there is not easy. Then the fun begins. You get to the NBA Finals, and a lot of hype going into this because it was Akeem and it was Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
People around here had seen the battles at UH and Georgetown, and now you're getting on a high level in the NBA. They got a lot of attention from the get-go this final.
Yeah, it was reminiscent of the old days with Russell and Chamberlain. You know, two of the best big guys in the game going at each other, but it's much more than that. You know, it's a team deal. And, you know, we had a history because at the beginning of the season, we got off to a great start. We were 14-0 going into Madison Square Garden, and all their tough guys said, "Not in our house." And we went out and did it in their house and tied the record. And now we get matched up in the finals. And I wasn't really happy about being matched up with them because of all the muscle they had. And I call it, they were tag teaming on Akeem, you know, like wrestling, and they would use up their fouls, and what a physical, you know, whole series it was. Whenever I see Pat Riley, he says one of the best series of all time, and then he uses a bad word and says, "That's Sam Cassell at the top of the key. He was a rookie. Come on."
He doesn't forget it, does he?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the battles that we had to go through to get to the finals were high level, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you have no idea how high the finals level is until you actually experience it. Like I never had experienced, none of us had experienced what the finals were really like, and then the finals in Madison Square Garden. I mean, that's the mecca of basketball, right? And I could just feel the pressure on my shoulders, even just out there warming up. You could just feel it. It was just something totally different.
Is it a physical style in those early rounds, and then it ramps up a little?
Even more so, yes.
And y'all knew that going in, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be physical, but then in the finals, they just let it all go. It's just like you're just out there competing, and you're not going to get anything given to you. You got to earn it all.
Yep. And, you know, just luckily, I talked to a guy in the NBA film division. He sent me some of those final games, and I was surprised at how little our plays and their plays were what we were designed to do. It was, they know what we're doing. That guy's going to be over there. Now you just have to make an individual gutsy play.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and our guys came up with some big ones, you know.
When you look at the way the series started with a win, and then the Knicks got that second one, right?
Yes.
At the Summit, so you went back to New York. I believe starting with Game 3, right? And then you had three there.
Three there.
And you had Cassell step up in Game 3, and this had the makings of a classic series here.
Oh, absolutely. Boy, would it have been really tough if we don't win, you know, Game 3. That would have been tough with two more there. And
but the rookie Cassell stepping up, man.
See, Sam he was a rookie. He had no concept of what he didn't know. You know, like he was just out there playing. He had no idea the pressure that he was out there playing under. He's just a rookie out there having fun and laughing. And
that's awesome.
Sam, this is pressure filled, but he had no concept of that.
He's such a gamer. The guy is such a gamer.
So you would talk about when the series went back to New York. You guys got Game 3, and then New York, you know, answered. Ewing kind of went off a little bit in Game Ewing and Oakley, and then Ewing again in Game 5. So were they making adjustments that you recall? That
yeah, it was a chess game back and forth, and then you just got to make the big shots. And they made more than we did there. So now I remember coming back, and again, our fans were there at Hobby. Yeah. And it was great. And
y'all were down 1 coming back home.
Yeah, it was 3-2.
Yeah.
New York had the lead.
Yep.
And so we were there in New York for 3 games. It's not like that anymore. It's 2-2, 1-1-1. But back then it was 2-3-2. So when New York won a game here in Houston, they could have closed us out in New York. And we were there for over a week. 3 games spread out over a week in New York City. All their fans talking crap to us on the streets. And I even remember the New York Rangers won the Stanley Cup while
you were there.
Yeah, and I got to go to that game. So I mean, it was like really an experience. Not even just the basketball part, but just the whole experience of being in New York City trying to beat the Knicks.
So coming back home, walk us through the mental state there, because y'all been through that series with Phoenix, and came back when you needed to, and you're coming back down 1 game. Did y'all reflect back on, hey, we've done this, we're good?
Yeah. Well, what I said is, I remember I stopped at the door and addressed the team on the plane. I said, if I told you all we had to do was win 2 home games and we would be world champions, would you think that's a good deal? And that's what it turned out to be. Now, they battled their butts off in Game 6. And, I look back to how we were playing offense, like I told you, where we were making them rotate and not pound on a team for 48 minutes. They still pounded on them, but he had the energy to make that play and block Stark's shot. If we had played a different way, who knows if that had slowed him down. But it was a great, legendary, epic play at the end of the game.
People are still talking about that today.
Yep.
And that's like 100 games into the season. Dream's been carrying our whole team for 100 games, and he's still carrying it. The level that he played at, the physicality that he had to play against, and to still be able to make those plays it's like almost 30 years later, you can't believe it that he was able to do it.
All right, get to Game 7. And for all the marbles, all the build-up, the city was going crazy. What was that like? Describe that build-up to game night that night.
Well, there were a couple things.
Couldn't probably wait to get to the arena, right?
There were a couple things. Number one, the guy that always cooked my meal the day before the game, I was down at the practice facilities. Rudy, we got Game 7 tomorrow. Where are you? So I had to drive from there and go all the way down to Ruggles, and I wanted to do that. And then the other thing is, I had to wear my black suit. That thing with the red and black tie. Yeah, I got a coach too, but man, you can't mess that stuff up. You got to do that too.
You knew exactly what you needed to do. What was the significance of that? Was that something that you?
It just happened to be. We won every time I did that. And
there you go.
We get into those kind of things,
You do, don't you? What about you, Matt, as a player, the build-up all day to get to the arena, and then it's go time with the bright lights of a Game 7?
Never felt pressure like that before, and never felt it since. And that's the beauty of playing in the finals, of winning a championship, of knowing that you've overcome things that you didn't even know that were inside of you, and to be able to be successful, and then to be able to, to have that success and carry it through the rest of your life. You just hold your head up high everywhere you go, because you're a champion and nobody can take it away from you.
You guys won 90-84, and you're champions. You locked down Starks. Whoever handled Starks that night did an unbelievable job. But when those final seconds ticked away, man, y'all brought home the first championship for the city.
It was amazing. It was really amazing, and you're walking on air. You can't feel things. Things are happening, and the emotion is so high. Just wonderful, wonderful memories. I remember Akeem sitting on the scores table and looking at everything, and
taking it all in. Yeah,
it was amazing.
And the last couple minutes of the game, we knew we had it won.
Yes.
Right. So it was like, you're trying not to celebrate too early because you don't want to jinx it, but then you got it.
Yeah.
So we had a few minutes to really start to prepare and we weren't prepared for what it's like to win. I mean, it's just like it's a dream,
Yeah.
and then to win it, and then we stayed in the arena for hours and just celebrating, and it was just us, and our family and friends, and it was super fun. And then you go outside the summit, and Richmond Avenue is a party.
Yep.
Like, oh my God, this is good. It's got even better.
It was just starting too.
Yeah.
That thing lasted a while.
Yep.
Lastly, as we wrap it up, obviously y'all were a team, and y'all went through a lot. You won 58 games, I think, regular season. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And
right.
a lot. And I think 2017, 16, 17, they finally eclipsed it. That record held up for a long time.
Right.
But y'all won it together as a unit. But y'all know what it meant to the city, and to this day, people still are talking about that Rockets championship, that first one.
Well, let me just tell you how that happens. We had, I believe, 8 or 9 do or die games in those 2 years. That means we're together. If we don't make it work, it's over. Just doing that once with a group of people will do something to you that will bond you to those guys. You become real brothers, and we did it 9 times. So when I see these guys, it's like seeing a family member, and man, I get a smile on my face, and it's just like the most beautiful feeling you could feel. Even the junkyard dog, Mario, smiles his ass off now.
He never smiled back in the day.
He never did. And
we love that about him.
He's
too.
the happiest guy of all now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like 30 years of we've done so many different things together now, celebrating, and every time we see each other, it's like family getting back together. A bunch of brothers that have made it to the mountaintop.
You'll never lose that connection.
That's
no
right.
doubt about it. Well, listen, great conversation, man. Just 30 years, it's hard to believe.
Thank you
it's gone
so
by.
much.
And great memories for the Rockets organization, obviously, for the city of Houston. There may be more titles, who knows, other sports here in town. But
let's hope.
And we'll be there.
You guys brought the first one, and the Rockets are back on the rise now, and I know you are pulling for them. So thank y'all for the time. Thanks for reminiscing, a little trip down memory lane 30 years later after that first championship. Rudy Tomjanovich, Matt Bullard, talking Rockets basketball and that first championship. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, what a run it was for the Houston Rockets in that 1993-94 season. A year again during the regular campaign. They won 58 games and continued to march through the postseason with playoff series wins over the Portland Trail Blazers, the Phoenix Suns, the Utah Jazz, and as you just heard, of course, the New York Knicks. The Rockets winning in Game 7, bringing home Houston's first NBA championship. 30 years. It has flown by, but definitely a time to celebrate this Rockets organization. We hope you enjoyed the conversation with Rudy Tomjanovich and Matt Bullard as we reflect back on that championship run 30 years later with the Rockets. So long for now.